once again. I'm Doc Rodden, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co-hosts on the net, and tonight we're reviewing Fresh, streaming now on Hulu. But let me introduce the Grue-Crew, starting off with Dave Dreher, lead news writer, easy for me to say, at Gruesome Magazine. How you doing, Dave?
I've never been a lead news writer before. I'm excited now.
Bleep.
I'm doing well. How are you, fine gentlemen of horror, this evening?
Doing good. I'm wondering why spring is so damn cold, but hey, I guess it's not officially
It was
spring
nice.
yet.
It was nice up here today. It was like almost 60 here on the good old North Coast. So
Yeah. Yesterday was like 35. It was crazy, man. All right. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, feeling fresh and naughty.
Yeah!
Well, I didn't know where I was going with that, and it went somewhere I wasn't expecting, but that's just like this movie.
Wow, I like that. That's very good. All right, let's welcome special guest host, film committee member of the New York City Horror Film Festival, the one and only Brian W. Smith. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, as always, we are happy to have you, sir. Let's see if the movie lived up to you joining us. We hope that you enjoyed it. So what we're going to do as we review the film, we're going to start off with our first impressions. That will be spoiler free, and then we'll dive into a discussion where we will get into spoilers. With this film, you kind of got to. The horror is hidden behind the spoiler. So we will be doing that. And then, of course, we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. And if you want to help us out, it's easy and free to do. Hit the like button, hit the share button, hit the thumbs up. It'll all do wonders for us, and we greatly appreciate it. And, of course, above all, we'd love to hear your comments. Leave them down below. All right, let's dive into the card. What are we talking about? Fresh 2022. It's streaming beginning of March 4th, 2022 on Hulu. The synopsis is the horrors of a modern dating seen through one young woman's defiant battle to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetites. Yeah, that's the story for tonight. Yes. Directed by Mimi Cave. Written by Lauryn Kahn. The cast includes Daisy Edgar-Jones, Sebastian Stan, Jojo T. Gibbs, Andrea Bang, Dayo Okeniyi, or something very close to that, and Charlotte Lebon. I guess I'm doing about 80% on that one. All right, let's get into things, and I'm going to roll the magic 8 ball here. Who's going to go first? Well, you know what? I think it's going to be Brian W. Smith. Sir, what was your first impression of Fresh?
Yeah, I'd heard about this. It just screened at Sundance, and I'm always like trying to figure out what new genre films are playing out at the festivals, and didn't know much about it, but I did some digging, and it sounded like an interesting premise. And I thought when I initially saw it, I thought apparently I guess this is Mimi Cave's directorial debut or a feature film debut.
Yes.
But I thought she did a really good job with I thought performances, production value, direction, cinematography, the style of it, everything about it is just very confidently put together, and it just has a great like visual style, and she has a lot of interesting quirky needle drops, and it has that sort of just has a real she knows what she's doing, and I thought it was really, really interesting. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the genre aspect of it, yeah, it's pretty dark and twisted. There's some gruesome stuff, but I would have liked a little more thrills, I guess, or a little more of a roller coaster. It's more of a psychological thriller than the horror that they're sort of promoting it as. But in the end, it does get to that, does deliver some nice, potent genre stuff, which we'll get to, of course. So yeah, I thought it was fine.
Tasty treats. All right.
I can't wait to get to that part. Yeah.
Find out what the rest of the crew thoughts are. Dave Dreher, sir, what was your first impression of Fresh?
Well, as I tend to do with a lot of these movies, went in blind with this one. I did a little research, found that just been at Sundance and so on and so forth. But I knew from the cover art that we were going to be dealing with some type of cannibalistic situation, or at least so it appeared. I think this film definitely, at least I'm giving it my own made up reward of the longest cold open ever in the history of film. That opening thing, by the time we get the opening credits, we're like, what, 15 minutes into the freaking film?
30. We're 33 minutes in.
Holy
Literally
shit.
33 minutes in.
Yeah, but that was kind of cool. I liked it. It was a little off-putting and unexpected, and really, honestly, not a whole hell of a lot happens in that period of time. But I don't know. That just kind of it reawoke my suspicions of what the hell was going on here, because that was just a really odd placement for a title sequence. So I kind of like that. I'm agreeing with Brian. I think it could have, for it to be a horror film, horrific things do happen, but I could have used a little more meat and a little less tenderizing. You know, it was just, but when it pays off, it pays off well. We won't go into any spoilers quite yet, but I found it to be an intriguing, interesting film.
Excellent.
I was looking for a better word, but we'll just go with film.
Sometimes that word just works. All right, Christopher G. Moore, you're up next. What was your first impression of Fresh?
I thought Fresh was brilliant. It's already went to the top of my films of this year. I think it's, Fresh is a good title because it's a fresh perspective on a lot of these stories. It's written by a female, directed by a female. And for this to be the directorial debut for Mimi Cave is amazing. The cinematographer is actually the same guy who worked with Ari Aster for Hereditary and Midsommar, and Nobody, the action film. The use of music is brilliant because you have a lot of these poppy tunes that are just around really weird subjects and scenes. And I think it takes it doesn't take balls. It takes a uterus to sort of use 30 minutes of it to be one film and the last 75% to be another film. And I like that. Without giving too much away, the first 30 minutes is almost like a romantic comedy type situation. And I think the cast is brilliant. I think Daisy Edgar-Jones is remarkable in this to play this kind of character who has to show strength through so many different things that happen. I think Sebastian Stan shows a side that's can be fairly creepy. I think to the level of Norma Bates. I just really was surprised. I think the cinematography is amazing. I think the editing is amazing. How it plays out, and yeah, I think it doesn't smack you over the head with things, but I think it's a nice character piece that kind of puts you in sort of like the seat of the main character as to when you get in this situation, how are you going to get out of this and what's going to happen? And I really, really love this. And that's saying a lot considering I made a film Foodie that has similar ideas. And I kind of wish I could have made it on this level, but I don't have money or Sebastian Stan to star in it. But yeah, I really, really love this. I was really pleasantly surprised. It's such a beautifully shot film with some kind of dark subject matter. I don't think necessarily has to get into the nitty gritty for it to be. I don't think you have to do that because it's just the idea alone kind of creeps me out. I mean, it has. I'll have to say in there more expansive what it reminds me of, but it has elements that remind me of other films that like, oh God, that's horrible. At the same time, I feel like there's horrible people in this world that this stuff might be happening for real. So anyway, I really love Fresh. I think it's brilliant. I kind of wish it got more of a theatrical run, because I think it's got some great performances, great cinematography. I can't say enough good things about it. I think the only negative thing is I wish I'd directed it.
Yeah, nice. I like that. Yeah, I enjoyed this movie quite a bit as well. I didn't know that much about it other than what's in the trailer and the idea of basically where, the basic principles of where it was going to go. I really like our two leads. They are fun and they work well off each other. And our heroine is you root for her, and she has to make tough decisions, and she makes. Yeah, it's really sweet in that, and I really like Sebastian Stan's turn. And like Christopher said, it's a Norman Bates kind of character. Might be a little over the top, but at the same time, it calls for that. So I'm not really sure where I sit with that. Um, and it uh, it 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 delivers by the end of the film. It delivers what you want out of a horror film with the gore and you know horrific themes and uh, maybe some I don't know. There's a couple scenes where people barf and there's good reasons for it. But anyway, we'll get into all that in our spoilers. The end of it is I really enjoyed this. I think what really sold it for me though, even above what I just mentioned, is the direction. There are some shots in here that made me stop and go, wow, that's a good transition, or that's a good shot. I really like what they did there. There's some really good stuff in here. I'm very excited to see where Mimi Cave goes from here. She's quite talented. There's a lot of promise in this, and I think we're going to get some really fun features from her in the future. So let's find out what's behind the veil, though. We got to talk about the twist and all the gory happenings. So from here on in, we are in Spoilerville. So if you have not seen this, head over to Hulu, check it out, and then come back and hang with us for this part of the show because, yeah, somebody slightly gave it away mentioning cannibals. I think, Dave, you did that. So let's jump with you on that one, which is fine. I mean, I think that's kind of a given going in. But what did you think, sir, of the gore that supported the cannibalism?
Once we got to it, I mean, I think it was very well incorporated into the film. It really didn't seem gratuitous, at least to me. I think it was very well done. This is a movie, at least for me, that kind of played into more of the satirical. This kind of was like 50 Shades of Grey meets I Spit on Your Grave.
Wow.
I mean, it was. And that seemed to be exactly what they were trying to go for, though. This darkness that lies just beneath all these dating apps and stuff. It was even like a little bit of Taken in there as well with that. With this guy, selling instead of selling whole people, he was selling parts of people to a very high clientele. And like I said, I think the story itself works, and the fact that the writer and the director were able to pull it off with as much style as they did. Is impressive. Just for me, a couple times. And again, I'm not the filmy guy here. Although I'm surrounded by a bunch of filmy guys. Some of the stuff that I think that annoyed me is probably the stuff that Christopher and Brian are going to think it's great. Like I hated that dance scene.
Oh no!
In the middle of it. Hated that dance scene. I was like, come on, seriously.
Ex Machina is the same thing.
Yeah, but I just didn't care. But that's a taste thing. I just don't care for that type of stuff. By no means is it meant to be demeaning to the filmmakers or anything. And I know that the bulk of people are going to like that. But for me, you're heading into the old artsy fartsy territory at that point, and that's not what I watch my horror movies for. But I appreciate how well they did it. They did do a good job of it. But at the end of the day, when we finally make it to the end of the road, things get pretty goddamn brutal.
Yeah, they do. There's brutal kills in this,
and I appreciated that. So overall, although it's not as enthusiastic, I think as some of the rest of our little group of folk here are, there's no denying that this is a genre bending take on this particular type of thing. And also too, I think age plays a lot with it because I've never done the dating apps. Have any of you guys do the dating apps?
Sadly.
Yeah. So I can't really relate to that part of the story. That whole thing seems bizarre to me that anybody would put themselves out there like that. That in itself seems like a horror show in and of itself to me. But I know a lot of people do. A lot of people I work with, a lot of people that I hang out with. That's a big part of their life, and it's like I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, that aspect of it I thought was a lot of fun. I really liked the how awful the first guy was that she was introduced with.
Yeah.
And, you know, even to the scarf going through the food, it was just like, dude.
Yeah.
With that, I felt like they could have probably expanded on even more of those, because I feel like that they definitely tackled I feel like an authentic character type, in that guy, and it was just, I would have liked to have seen more of that perspective of, more bad
Yeah,
dates.
I was wondering about that, but I was like, what do you do? Like a montage, or do you eat more?
I mean, it worked on its own.
Yeah.
In another movie, a comedy probably would have done like a whole montage, but I just thought they did it so well that I was intrigued to see more terrible people get roasted on.
Well, I personally was very uncomfortable throughout the whole scene, and so I don't know if I would have liked more assholes that she'd go on dates with. I think that was
I just like the idea of just dragging those assholes.
Oh well, yeah, that'd be nice. But I feel like we'd also be we'd see her have to deal with that, and not because of her character not really being as confrontational as what her best friend is.
Yeah.
But I thought that was again, that's sort of like an improv. You don't know. It's good to start in the middle of something. It's kind of, and I think that allows us to go on when she runs into that guy just naturally, because there's always that he fulfills that hope of like just running. Like I've always had, you go to the grocery store. It's a good place to meet a girl or whatever, and you always hear about those situations. But yeah, I think it's also just shows the horrors of the dating scene in general. You never. It's almost like the horror version of catfishing. It's
it is. Yeah.
I kind of call this the silence of the dates, is what I call this. It feels like a Buffalo Bill were on Tinder and he was into cannibalism. You'd have this guy. But I mean, I love, but I think that's the scary part is you always have like people that are very personable and sociable, and you meet them, but then you never really get to know the real person until it's too late. And I think that's what happens here. And I think for me, I just felt really bad because I think I kind of relate to the main character in this, because I'm very vulnerable to people, and you have that hope that like they make a joke about like, Little Mermaid or whatever, like nothing's ever as happy as some of these Disney films or whatever. And which also kind of plays in because she kind of like sacrifices herself just to be on land. So, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of like that aspect. I'm not sure if I really would have wanted to suffer more with that. I think if this is a traditional comedy, yeah. But I also like that we have like a romantic comedy section, and then it goes, and then when we go into the real part and the meat of it, is when we get the title sequence. And I was like, I thought that was kind of brilliant to do that. I kind of like that because there's that big switcheroo and the weird thing is it's not one of those things where he switches from one personality to another. He's the same personality. You could just see the evil behind his eyes with that, which makes it even creepier.
See, that was kind of my slight issue. Although I'm fine with the film overall and the performances are good. My only slight issue was with the fact that he is pretty consistent as the character throughout. Like, so I never really saw the switch in order to be sort of devastated, or that to see that change. It was sort of like, I don't know if it's just after watching seasons of You or whatever. It's just you right off the bat that everything. There was something. I don't know if it's just his before. Like Sebastian Stan's great actor. Obviously, a great looking actor, and they put him on display as this sort of dashing stranger. But I think for this kind of role, you need someone a little more personable, a little like maybe I don't know, to show the different side to him, because I feel like he could have just as easily played Scarf Guy. He had that same sort of rigidness about him. And so the switch, when it happens, it's like, yeah, okay. You could sort of already have your guard up on his character, even if you didn't know the twist. So again, I guess it was marquee value, so they cast him. But if this were like the 80s or something, I would say something like if it were like 80s Tom Hanks, someone that's that everyone knows is like, oh, he's a good guy, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, he's white, he's a camp, that whole thing. That would be more of a devastating twist. But I think she sells it. She sells the devastation of it pretty well. It's like, fuck, chains, chains to the wall and everything, But I agree.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But what I like about her and her relationship is that he ends up because he when they're at the date, he's asking all the right questions to find out if she's, compatible. But he goes a little too far, and then she turns around and uses that to manufacture her escape. Once she finds out that she's the only one he slept with, she knows what to do. She suffers for it sometimes, but she knows what to do. She can't just try to escape. She has to build his trust back, and she has to get back under his skin. And I really like that aspect. I found that as interesting as, all the carving and stuff, and their dinner scenes I thought were fantastic, because it's all implied, right? There's nothing there but food, but this meatball is, has a name. And, and then I just really thought that was so creepy. And then, it follows all I'm using the word tropes, but they don't use it as a trope, like, serial killers. In this case, he turns it into a job, but he's really a serial killer, and he has all the trophies up. And I don't know. I thought it was really interesting how she kind of turned it all back on him. And I thought that's what drove the film as much as anything else.
There was a film that we screened at New York City Horror a couple of years back called Do Not Reply with Jackson Rathbone from the Twilight films, where it had a kind of, maybe that's why this one, I like the style of it again, but it felt familiar in terms of like having the prisoners in the different rooms and communicating, because it was a similar sort of premise with having the women have to sort of band together, sort of communicating through walls and things like that. I don't know. It just felt very, very familiar. So I wasn't completely blown away by the initial twist. I thought maybe there would be a little more thrills to it, but like I said, it does make up for it in the end. There are some tropes that occur where I did roll my eyes when there was some momentum going, but yeah, I mean, I like the good outweighs. I'd say the good outweighs the not so great. For a directorial debut, it's pretty impressive. It's pretty good.
Very impressive. What do we think of our hero Paul? And I use the hero word loosely, saying, "I know how this horror movie ends, and I'm getting the hell out of here."
He's like, "Oh hell no!"
Yeah, it felt like the Get Out moment.
Yeah, they were definitely checking some boxes there. I mean, I was on edge the whole time for her friend Malia, who really is like the MVP of the movie. Although although the movie tries to subvert the trope, she is essentially still playing the best friend who has no other real agency outside of helping her best friend. I guess they were going along with that, but I was thankful for a spoiler alert that she turns out okay, at the end, because it could have been another Scatman Crothers situation that I'm so used to watching horror movies.
Wow.
Yeah, well, there is that moment of
see that coming.
familiarity that he says,
but
succinctly.
But it doesn't. It didn't quite make sense that she, like, I don't know if it's not implied that he did anything to her. He captured her. She's there, but he had, I don't know. It was weird.
I thought he took her breast off.
Of her friend? I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's the breast that he served her, because he says, I think you find some familiarity in this.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because she
handled it well. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if we saw anything. Yeah.
Well, I saw her. She winced a couple times.
Yeah, because she's holding on to her breasts.
Interesting.
Several times there.
Oh, then yeah, fuck that guy.
This felt like. I mean, it felt like.
Yeah, that was the best to me. That was the ending. That's where it really kicked in to high gear for me as a horror fan. It was like, okay, once the bite happens, which I'm sure we'll talk about, or I'm sure everyone will talk about. It was like I was not expecting that. I was cheering her on. I was like, and then the momentum goes, and then she forgets her phone. I was like, fuck, don't do the phone thing. Well,
Well, the interesting thing is you have his wife who was a previous victim, and so you kind of wonder if it's what's it called when somebody's
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah.
Where like maybe he finds someone new that he has interested in. And you kind of wonder if maybe she's had that switch, but she also knows again how to get him in the end. And I think I don't know. To me, I compare this a little bit to Hannibal, the TV show, a little bit, because you have this kind of suave guy, and there's parts where he takes people's limbs off and stuff and cooks it. So and I think there's that part where he's dancing, he's like throwing the leg. he's preparing it. It felt like if Hannibal were like Van Wilder or something, if he's like more of a cooler dude instead of like the guy in suits, you'd have Sebastian Stan. And that's what I kind of liked about it, because it wasn't like some normal, because I think now we were so used to like our cannibals being like Hannibal Lecter, where it's like suave, and he's just like this dude, this hot doctor dude.
Yeah, he's more American Psycho than Hannibal, 80s. Right?
Yeah. Well, even not even American Psycho, because he has more of a normal personality. He's like that guy that women would like, that personable person who goes down on her on when they first hook up. So he seems to be that kind of person you want, but he feeds into that, and that's why he picks these people who don't have anybody and they're yearning for something. So he's like the perfect sort of villain for that kind of stuff, finding those type of victims.
Yep, he's a stalker. Knows what to do. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Give our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. Brian, sir, you are up first.
Oh, yeah. So 1 to 5, I give it let's say, I'll do the decimal. I do 3.5 out of 5, I guess. Didn't quite give me the scary thrills, but it does kick into high gear towards the end. Gave me some stuff there. I guess I don't think we actually mentioned the bite, right? But whatever. But that was I'd say that was definitely my favorite moment, because that's where. Yeah. And I rewatched it again, and I read some reviews how they were mentioning how there's a lot of like, if you watch the film again, there's a lot of foreshadowing to that moment. She's eating carrots and stuff, and there's a lot of shots of her teeth and close-ups and things like that. So yeah, it was all, I guess, alluding to that. It just came out of nowhere, so I was like, finally. And I liked seeing the his captive villain, his victims fighting back and all that sort of stuff. So that was great. Yeah, so 3.5 out of 5. I think it's confidently directed. I don't want to say competently, because that sounds like I'm downplaying. It's confidently directed for a debut, and I'm interested to see what Mimi does next. And yeah, I think check it out. See, it's still a little behind in terms of like Texas Chainsaw. I think I like Texas Chainsaw a little more. I see the eyebrows going up. In terms of delivering stupid horror thrills that I know what I'm getting myself into, yeah, I think I could still watch that again and still have a good time. But this was fine. It's directed well and looks good. So 3.5.
Did you pick a favorite scene?
I'd say the bite scene that leads into
the bite scene. You're gonna take everybody's scene. Yeah.
It leads into the fight scene. I mean, because it kind of makes sense, but it's also like, what is she gonna do at that moment? It's like she knows she's probably gonna die, and she's already gotten a taste for it, kind of. So she's not. There's no. I'm not saying she enjoyed it. I'm just saying it's just like she subtly got the taste for it, and now it's like she uses it as a weapon. And I was like, okay, that was smart.
She went right for the
it was
for the juggler of a man, if you will.
Yeah, it ultimately just reduced them. It really just reduced them to this quivering. I love seeing a villain like reduced to a quivering mess of jelly. I mean, it was just really fun. So.
Yep. Yeah, he was in trouble.
Did not expect it.
Dave, your final thoughts, your score, your favorite scene.
Well, I think I'm in Brian's camp with this one. I'm going to give it a 3.75, a little bit of a higher score, but not much. I found it to be entertaining enough. I thought it was impressively put together, written, and directed. The performances were great. I just would have liked a little more horror with my horror movie. I say that a lot, though. I know. Favorite scene, I'm gonna again kind of piggyback on Brian here. He picked the bite. I'm gonna pick the fight that comes after the bite. That whole scene with the 3 girls, and I think they're in a kitchen, are they not?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. That whole scene. I mean, we definitely ratchet up. I mean, the bite is the lift off, but the fight scene is definitely the meat and potatoes of that whole
very good
of that whole portion. So it's good. It's brutal. It's bloody. It's vicious. I needed about another hour and 10 minutes of that.
There you go. And the meat cleaver. We have a meat cleaver, ladies.
And we have a meat cleaver.
All right, Christopher G. Moore, you're up next. Your final thoughts, your score, your favorite scene.
I absolutely love Fresh. I mean, I feel like it's intense. I mean, it's one of those films I don't think I'm gonna like, ooh, I feel like I'm in a really good mood. Let's watch Fresh. Because it is kind of intense and just the a lot of the suffering that the people go through in this film. But I think it's brilliantly made. It's the cinematography, the production design. We even talk about that. That house is creepy in a dentist's office way. You know, it's like you
Very
have
sterile. Yeah.
Instead of like the normal like, oh, we got these people in a dungeon. It's almost like a dentist office place. You know, it's and the way it's set up, and even like those walls of rock and where there's plants and little, you know, glass cubicle. I mean, it's everything's like, yeah, and it's even the outside of it's just a whole like almost like a bomb shelter from the outside. So it's just, I don't know, it's just everything I think comes together. Even the painting, you know, which you see and it almost looks like pieces of flesh. You know?
Yep.
So yeah, I think everything how they created everything just works really well. And I think the shots, the way they do editing, because even when the big part happens at the end, they kind of flash back and forth between forward and backward. So yeah, I don't know. I just really loved it. I think the performances are great. Daisy Edgar-Jones, add her to my crush list. I think she plays like a really good character. And screw you, Dave. I liked her. I like the dancing parts. I think when they first met and she's trying to act like she's dancing, that felt natural to me. That just felt, you know, she was trying to get past her, you know, confidence level and that kind of stuff. And then later on, she uses that to her advantage. I think that works well. I loved all of that. I think Sebastian Stan, I think he's great. I think he's to me, he's a modern day Norman Bates in his performance. And I think it's one of those things to where when things are too good to be true, they are, to where you want to feel like, oh, this cute guy is into me and he's personable and stuff. And then I think if anything, the only negative thing to take away is I feel like this film will make you feel like any nice guys trying to stick you in his dungeon so he can send pieces of meat of you to people across the world. So yeah, I love this film a lot. I'm gonna 4.75.
Wow, nice.
I really enjoyed this, you know, and I you know, I love a good. I mean, it almost has. It's almost like Hannibal meets Boxing Helena a little bit, you know. It's got a little bit of that, you know, where they're losing pieces and stuff. And I think the performances are just really great. And I hope Mimi Cave. I hope that she makes films in this genre more after this. And I would kill to have this my first feature. Holy shit. Yeah, so everything's work. As for favorite scene, I think there's a lot of scenes I could probably pick as a favorite scene because it's so well shot and performed and edited. I think the editor actually was nominated for an Academy Award for Dallas Buyers Club. So I will say, I'll say the scene where she has that big piece of that big meatball.
Yes.
Because she mentions earlier, it's like trying to get on his good side, acting like, I'm kind of intrigued by eating human meat. And then he makes that meatball out of hope. And just to build up to that, and you could sort of see it in her eyes. She doesn't want to eat it, but she's trying to do it to get on his good side. And then you have a little bit of almost like a flash to all those other people who've probably consumed it. And I don't know. I love that whole scene. Is just indicative of a lot of the cool stuff that happens in this film.
Yeah, I like that her eyes dilate, and it implies a whole lot through this visual flourish of images. Yeah, very good scene. I really enjoyed this. Interesting story is my daughter's in from school for spring break, and her friends have watched it, and they were telling her about it. So we all watched it together last night, and she wasn't terribly impressed, unfortunately, but I enjoyed the hell out of it.
It's no Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
No, I guess it's not for the young. But I mean, she liked it up to a toy. We'll get it. We'll save that for later. Anyway, but she, yeah, she was the one that thought. She really thought Sebastian's dad overacted. I didn't think he overacted that much. I thought it was part of his personality and thing. But I really dug this. And like I said earlier, the biggest thing that impressed me is the cinematography and the direction. The direction in this is and some of the setups for the various shots and transitions, right? Transitions are really marvelous. This really is a promising. I mean, it's straightforward when it needs to be, and it's flashy when it needs to be, and it concentrates on the characters, which I thought was really interesting. And this is a character piece, even though it bathes in blood from time to time, and when it does get brutal at the end, and then, but it doesn't wade through all the the slicing and the dicing of the victims terribly much. I mean, it gets us what we need, but the gore and the brutality is generally saved for later on when the fight happens, and I appreciate that too. In this case, in this particular storyline, I think it was the right choice. So I'm going to give it a 4. I really enjoyed it. I was surprised. Actually, wasn't sure I would like it, and I really, really did. So. My favorite scene, my first 3 were the 3 you all picked. So I'm going to go with another scene. And this is the second dinner because a lot more happens. Instead of Hope, we get Melissa, and she gives him hell about, oh, Melissa, I thought you were going to come up with like a good name like Joy or something, and I liked what was happening there. I liked the interaction. You can see her working the situation, and like drinking the wine real fast, so she'll get loose and he'll get loose as well, so get a little bit more comfortable, and she can get take advantage of that situation. And then it leads to the reveal of the behind the picture with all the trophies and all the other people and her looking at it, and we get to see each one, and I don't know, I like that, even right up to the point and past it, but that scene to me concludes where he realizes that he never when he got up to show her the trophies, he never handcuffed her again, and you could see at that point that she was at the point where she needed to be. Right, she got his trust again, and of course it goes to the dancing. But so that's character, right? That's character interaction. They're playing each other, and she's trying to get the one up, and it kind of gets a ding when it happens. And it was kind of cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I actually, and one thing I like, just when it comes to the filmmaking, if you pay attention, when he first drugs her with the drink, her vision of him has this kind of weird filter over him.
Mm-hmm.
That same filter is used when he's going after her from his point of view.
Oh, nice.
So things like that, I think just the attention to detail is just really great. There's also that cool shot where he walks into that freezer full of body parts.
Yes.
Oh,
grabs the leg and carries around like a guitar or something. Mm.
Yeah, there's a lot of exciting shots. I think there's even one on a cart where he's like when he's wheeling the cart.
Yes.
And so I was like, they put the camera in the cart. Yeah, it's like a flip shop going upside down, things like that.
There's a split. Is it a split diopter? No, I've said that something for
split diopter is when you have 2 different things in focus at the same time.
Right. They did that once, and when she was hiding behind a wall, and he came down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of creative filmmaking in this, and and like I said, the cinematographer is the same guy from Ari Aster's films, so a lot of attention to detail.
Lots of food moments, eating, stuff like that. The second time I watched it, I realized that there were a lot of. It's just thematically just food, eating, attention to putting food to people's mouths. Someone's always having a meal of some sort in every scene, even if it's just a burrito or a carrot or whatever. So yeah,
and an interesting dialogue for the backstory. I liked it. All right, there you go. That's our review for Fresh, streaming now on Hulu. Check it out and let us know what you think of it in the comments down below. Brian, once again, thank you for joining us. We hope you come back soon. Dave, Christopher, as always, thank you.
It's always fun. Yeah. If you don't like eating animals, this film's good for you.
Yes. That should have been a big sign at the beginning, right? He doesn't say he doesn't eat meat. He just says he doesn't
eat animals.
Yes.
Yep.
Bom, bom, bom.
Slick bastard. All right, let's say goodnight.
Although Hannibal made me hungrier. No, I'm kidding.
That's
True.
true.
Like-
Very true. That's the difference.
Hey, we get meatballs and pate here. I mean, come on. All right, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.